Okay, so here's video 2 for 11.8 notes. Remember a couple of things we said in video 1, that there might be multiple approaches to proving congruence. So it is worth taking time to try to memorize or at least go back and read through those vocabulary terms multiple times. So for this first example, this comes from Try It 1 on page 690 in your workbook. First question that goes along with this diagram: which angles are congruent to angle 8? Okay, so we learned vertical angles, corresponding angles, alternate interior, alternate exterior, and same side angles, along with supplementary angles for our definitions last video. One approach I like to take is straight to vertical angles, because those seem to be the most straightforward for me. Angle 8 and angle 6, so those have to be congruent to each other. Then from there, I can also either go the route of corresponding. Angle 8 and angle 4 are corresponding angles. Or I could go the route of, if angle 8 equals angle 6, well, angle 6 and angle 4 are alternate interior angles, so they're going to be congruent. So regardless of which approach you take, angle 8, angle 6, angle 4 all have to be congruent. And if we look at this portion of the diagram, angle 2 is a vertical angle to angle 4, so they also have to be congruent. What you might be noticing between video 1 and video 2 is anytime you have two parallel lines, and we know these are parallel because of the symbols they give us, and one transversal, that of the 8 angles that are formed, 4 of them are going to be congruent. So in this case, 8, 6, 4, and 2. Those are the angles that are all congruent to each other. For part B, which angles are supplementary to angle 8? Well, unless angles form at least if the angle relationships that are formed create right angles, that's the only scenario where all 8 angles would be congruent. So if angles 2, 4, 6, and 8 are congruent, then that means angle 1, 3, 5, and 7 all have to be congruent as well, based off the same arguments that we made with part A. If angle 2, 4, and 6 are congruent to angle 8, then that means the remaining angles have to be supplementary to angle 8. Again, these assumptions can only be made if we have a set of parallel lines with one transversal. So the answer for part B, which I did not actually box in, would be angles 1, 3, 5, and 7. For example 2, this comes from the next page in your workbook. Here's the diagram we're given. This one's slightly different. We still have our parallel lines. We have one transversal, but of the 8 angles, they actually give you the measure of one of the angles, and then they label them the remaining angles 1 through 7. We want to describe, or actually find, the measures of angle 7 and angle 2, and then explain our process. So you'll notice here, this is sample answer. And then down here in this note, there's a few different ways that you can approach this argument. My sample answer is the first thing that I saw, which I thought might be a little more straightforward for you, and you might see it differently. So we know if this angle is 99 degrees and angle 2 is vertical to it, that the measure of angle 2 also has to be 99 degrees because of vertical angles. So that one's pretty straightforward, just one step. The next piece takes a little bit more to get there. The measure of angle 1 and the 99-degree angle here, these are going to be supplementary because they form a straight line. So that means the measure of angle 1 plus 99 degrees has to equal 180 degrees. So if we do our math and we subtract 99 from 180, that means the measure of angle 1 has to be 81 degrees. But that's not what the question's wanting. So why are we spending time looking for the measure of angle 1? Well, I've noticed that if the measure of angle 1 is 81 degrees, angle 7 is an alternate exterior angle, which means they have to be congruent. So if angle 1 is 81 degrees, then that means angles 3, 5, and 7 are all also 81 degrees. So that's what I have here. Okay. In my note, I have an alternate approach. If we know that this angle is 99 degrees, then angles 2, 4, and 6 all have to be 99 degrees. And that also means that my remaining 4 angles are all congruent So they would all have to be 81 degrees. You can find these measures using relationships of corresponding angles, vertical angles, alternate interior and exterior angles, as well as properties of supplementary angles. So there's not one right answer here. As long as you can provide an argument, and it's a valid argument of the steps you took, and you got the same answer as me, then you are good to go.